because it has different meanings for different people in different parts of the sciences. And one way to diffuse a lot of the confusion on this concept is to look to the brilliant work of the late Hannah Arendt, one of the greatest social psychologists of the 20th century, although she was a political philosopher. She has written and analyzed the history of the concept of free will and has pointed out some very important things, such as the ancient Greeks, with all of their brilliant philosophizing, had no concept of free will. It wasn't an issue for them. Their concept of freedom was political. It was about action. It was about free action in society. Free for them meant freedom from external control, from external influences and constraints. Political science, as she noted, as a field wouldn't even exist without this concept of free will and free association, because it's the study of that. The psychological free will, on the other hand, was originally a Christian concept. She traces it first to St. Paul in the letter to the Romans. And St. Paul discovered the will in its weakness, or his weakness, to do right. Sort of like the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. He said, I know what to do, I know what is right, but sometimes I can't do it. And then he exhorted his followers to try harder, to work harder, to do the right thing when it was hard to do. And that's the first mention of this idea of the will in philosophy or anywhere else. Now, St. Augustine elaborated 600 years later and really developed the idea of free will. St. Paul discovered the will, because Augustine discovered free will. Augustine argued that free will must exist because there's otherwise no basis for God's judgment on us. Assignment by God to heaven or hell would otherwise be arbitrary and unfair. Augustine argued that psychological free will must exist, because otherwise God would be doing something arbitrarily. It's therefore a theological solution to the problem of evil, which was a very important problem of the time and still is. How could an all-good God permit evil to exist in the world? Augustine's solution was, God is not the source of evil, but must allow for its possibility, must permit it in man and women, in order to judge our lives fairly and enable us to earn our eternal reward. The concept of free will as internal free will, or internal causation, is thus a religious concept.